Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lunch with Helena on Wednesday, April 8th. Thanks for joining us. As you know, or as you may know, we're doing these informal lunch videos so that we can stay connected, so that we can talk about issues that are of interest to folks, and that I can continue learning about what's going on in our state and what we can do to improve things. I am running for state representative for District 100, and I hope to be elected in 2020, and I want to do good things for our state, good things for our neighbors, and make sure our community thrives in spite of and in addition to the COVID-19 virus we're experiencing right now. Before we get started, I wanted to just say that we're going to take a little break after today. There are a lot of holidays going on and a lot of celebrating of life. And I want to make sure that people have time with their families, and I do too, and take a little step back and really appreciate this time that we have. There are a lot of challenges, but there are a lot of opportunities here as well. So not just Christians are celebrating holidays in the next week or so. We're in Holy Week for Easter, so Christians and Catholics, happy Easter. To our Jewish friends, happy Passover. To our Hindu friends, happy Hanuman Jayanti. And for our Muslim friends, happy Lailat al-Bara. And for some of our Buddhist friends, happy Theravada New Year. And for non-believers and for all of us, I'm really enjoying spring. I am trying to appreciate nature and the beauty that is blossoming around us, and finding strength in that as we move forward. So our guest today, my guest today, your guest today, is Jennifer Rushing. Jennifer is an inpatient clinical pharmacist at a local hospital, and she's here to sort of talk to us about what she's seeing. So I'm going to introduce Jennifer, and we're going to do our low-tech guest spot. Here we go. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's. I really am excited to hear from you. How are you doing, first of all, with all the isolation and also working in the hospitals? How are you doing personally?
It's stressful. I have two elderly, frail parents that I provide care for in the evenings, and so I've had, I'd say, a moderate number of momentary losses, just because everything is so tense right now.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you go in a patient care area, you're at risk. And you don't know, and that's just it. This is, with it being a new entity, we're finding out more and more about how it's transmitted and who's at highest risk.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm glad you're doing well so far. That's good. And I'm glad I hope you're gonna stay that way. I wanted to start by talking about, sort of what was your day-to-day life like working in the hospitals before the virus?
So, some of my duties are, kind of the boring stuff of going through medication profiles and making clinical adjustments, making recommendations to physicians, those kinds of things to optimize therapy. But my favorite part was interacting with patients. So, I was the person that would come around and talk to you about what was going on and what you could expect and how long you were going to be on therapy and what you could expect from therapy. And, that was my favorite part of my job. Was the ability to interact with patients, because I think we've lost a lot of that in healthcare. If you think about your last visit with your doctor, it's probably like a 15-minute visit, and they come in and they, you gotta tell them real quick what's wrong, and they tell you what they're gonna do, and then they zip out. And a lot of times, nobody slows down. So I'm the person who slows down and who spends more time talking. So that was me before.
Yeah.
And me now, I'm at my house, so I do a lot of my stuff over the phone, which is a challenge because there's a lot of nonverbal cues that you get when you're working with people that I don't have now, and it makes my job even harder. But with that said, because so much of it is over the phone, that same piece of it, of the person who stops and talks to you is still so important. You know, and the follow-up is also super important. So, you know, I just had a conversation just before we came on with a patient's family member and uncovered a couple of issues that I don't think, you know, the hospitalist service was aware of. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to reach out to them and communicate with them. But, you know, that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Okay, great. And what do you find, aside from having to do this over the phone, what kinds of patients are you seeing now? What else has changed?
You know, it's interesting because a lot of, you know, our census is way down. A lot of people are putting things off that whatever they can put off, which, you know, is of course appropriate. And so we're seeing more of like sicker patients because whether it's that people are staying home until they're really super sick and then they come in, or they're just trying to stay away from the hospitals, which is actually probably a really good thing.
Yeah.
You know, and our jobs are more challenging. Things change literally. We do daily meetings and daily emails with updates. So everything changes like all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder
yeah.
of how hard this time is.
Yeah, I've heard that hospitals are maybe financially going to be struggling through this time as well, even though they're very busy, because elective surgeries are being delayed, and I wonder what your thoughts are about that, if you have any.
Oh yeah, I mean, our census is way down, and so far they're doing what they can to keep all of their employees, you know, fully employed. Some people are having their schedules cut. Some people are doing other duties besides, you know, maybe what they were hired to do. But that's, I would say that those type of crises are probably looming, mm-hmm. that there will be some type of, you know, of crisis of budget, mm-hmm. That's impending. You know, we'll hopefully,
yeah,
not too bad, but I would say that's coming.
Yeah. And I know that I read in an article today, you know, that Sam Page is describing us as having 3 crises going on simultaneously, and one of those is an economic crisis. And a lot of that's, for many of us, economic uncertainty is not just about whether we have a job or if our business is thriving, but also if we have health insurance. So I wondered if you wanted to share your thoughts about sort of the uncertainty that people are going through economically because of this health crisis.
Well, it's obviously it's multi-layered. You know, there are a lot of people that are either have lost their job or will lose their job due to the economic fallout, and that doesn't mean that their healthcare needs go away. It just means they don't necessarily have access to the means with which to access healthcare. And you know, I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters, and that's one of the issues that we're centered around right now is Medicaid expansion. And I think it's time to have that conversation of how do we provide healthcare for people who need it, because their needs don't go away. It's just they don't address them in the same manner when they don't have insurance, and the cost doesn't go away either. It's just they come to the hospital when they're sicker, and when they leave, they have no means with which to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely that's another layer.
Right.
So we have what we're dealing with now, and we have what we're going to deal with down the road.
Right.
And that's going to be one of the fallouts that we're going to deal with down the road.
I remember a couple of years ago, you mentioned, it might have been in a post or it might have been in an in-person conversation, amazing, but talking about, I think this is your story, in one day you had 2 patients come in, both that had heart attacks, and one had delayed coming in for quite a while, and the circumstances around that. Do you remember that day?
I I don't
Oh,
remember
okay.
the story, but it's yeah. I mean, it happens. People sit at home with symptoms, and because they're afraid. They don't have health insurance. We call it health literacy. They don't understand what their symptoms mean, and so they stay home. There's just any number of reasons why people delay care, and in some cases that's not to their advantage.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just on a call earlier today. I was listening to a call where they're talking about COVID. It was a doctor, an infectious disease doctor in Italy, that was talking about how what they're seeing now is people start with mild disease, and they were sending patients home who had mild disease, and then 2 weeks later they come back with chest tightness and dyspnea and shortness of breath, and they decompensate so quickly that's what's scary. Is they go from, and that's what I've seen is they go from, yes, they're having shortness of breath, but they can still breathe, to their oxygen saturation drops precipitously very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's scary.
Yeah.
You're talking about people, when you talk about this current crisis in context of what I've already observed in the healthcare setting, which is people delaying care because they don't have health insurance. I see a lot of potential for bad outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think investing in prevention keeps everybody healthier and keeps us more productive. What about for those of us who do have insurance, maybe have elderly parents in nursing homes? Any concerns or observations from talking to your colleagues and or personal situations that any insights you have into that situation?
Well, it's in terms of facilities in this current crisis, the one thing I've been thinking about, what could we have done differently? What sorts of things would have made a difference or might make a difference even in the future? And one of the things that I keep going back to is the concept of like a coordinated response. That we need to have more of everybody being on the same page. Unfortunately, my dad's kind of been in and out of. We've been connoisseurs of healthcare out here in St. Charles County for the past, really 2 years, but 6 months especially. And it kills me how when they're dealing with this COVID thing, there were different standards, different people doing different things. And that just seems weird to me, that you could go to one facility and it's being done this way, and you go to another facility and it's being done that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's crazy to me. It just doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I think we need to think about that. We need to think about what our responses are and how we can improve those.
Yeah, I'd say that for me, since the federal response has taken quite a long time to ramp up, and I think it's heading in the right direction, but it's taken a long time, and still the focus or the direction still feels like states need to make their own decisions about, when and if to have a stay-at-home order, how to address shortages or moving equipment around. It seems on a state-to-state basis. So I feel like looking forward, we have to acknowledge the fact that these things are going to happen in a global world where people travel internationally. That's not really going to stop. We're on a temporary sort of hiatus, but our businesses in America are going to still want to be selling in Europe and selling in Asia and vice versa. I don't think that's going away. And I think we're going to have to acknowledge that this is going to happen from time to time. And it hasn't happened in a really long time. We've been super lucky in America that we were ahead of the curve, World War II, post-World War II, really investing in our infrastructure and investing in our people. And since then, we sort of stopped doing that. We've been wanting to spend as little as possible. And a lot of our infrastructure is not in good shape. And I don't mean just roads. I mean what you're talking about, this coordination and working together and having a coordinated response. So I would say moving forward, the state really has to be prepared. And I think that means making sure that people can get access to health care. I think it's going to mean being able to vote by absentee ballot. And I hope that the legislature and the governor are going to address this before it's November and before it's August. I think this is critical that people who are at risk or are immunosuppressed, I mean, people with asthma, people with lupus, and the elderly, obviously if you're over 75, you can vote absentee on a permanent basis, but I think we need that option for more people, and I think we need to make sure that we have, a broad range of supplies ready and a coordinated response from the governor, whoever that may be. What do you think would help us next time around if we were able to have a statewide response that took into account the differences between our urban areas and our suburban areas and our rural areas, but still a coordinated response? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's super important to address equipment, not just respirators, but PPE, which is the personal protective equipment, the masks, the gowns, the gloves, that we go through in great numbers just on a daily basis in our hospitals. And, if the federal government isn't going to have a stockpile, well, fine, the state needs to have a stockpile, because if we're hurting in a big metropolitan system, I can't imagine what a rural hospital is doing. And that's really kind of scary. I think we need to think about, a coordinated sort of task force isn't the right word, but what has really impressed me, we're all learning about this. We're all learning about what works, the drugs that work, treatments that work, who's at risk, what patients we need to watch out for. And we're doing that on our own. We're forming cohorts. Sorry, that's the dog. Cooper wants to express his opinion as well. But we're forming cohorts to share best practices, and I can't help but think about the providers that aren't on those calls, and the rural providers, and why is our state not coordinating that? Why are we not trying to push out that information? And it's not to say that our healthcare providers don't share information, they do, but it would just be great to have like a more global thought, a thought from our state as far as how do we make sure that the people in Franklin County are getting the same level of care as the people in St. Louis County.
And what has been done, to your knowledge, by the Department of Health and Human Services of Missouri? Oh, okay.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. All right.
And
that's a problem.
Yeah, it really is. And it's going to continue, right? Like, we have some pretty serious looming drug shortages. If a lot of people use albuterol inhalers to help control their symptoms of their asthma symptoms, their COPD symptoms, to help them breathe, which is super important. And so those are in very, very short supply. Even in the hospital, we're having to ration them and only use them when we have to for patients because we can't get them. So what does that mean for the community? What does that mean for people who need them on a daily basis so that they can breathe?
Yeah.
That worries me. That concerns me. So that's coming. There's other drugs that are on shortage now, or that we've got warnings are going to be on shortage. And I can't help but think that that's an opportunity for our state Department of Health and Human Services to say, maybe there's something we can do. And again, rural hospitals that don't have the purchasing power of the system that I'm in, how are they coping with that? I really think
and with fewer and fewer rural hospitals serving those areas because they have been closing.
Right.
Well, I think what I'm taking away from it is obviously we have issues and we have things to work on, but I really like what you said about that we are learning, and we're learning this together. And I hope that we take heart and take from the learnings and actually put some things into practice once we're out of the sort of more initial crisis management. I think planning ahead, learning from this situation could help Missouri stay economically strong. We don't want to go through this multiple times, and we want to learn from what we didn't know before. Not mistakes necessarily, maybe some mistakes, maybe some lack of leadership, maybe some lack of wanting to impose policies on constituents. We need to just really take a step back and look at what's going to serve the state physically, health-wise, economically, make sure we take care of each other. And I just wanted to thank you, Jennifer, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Okay, me too.
And what's really great about what you're doing, Helena, is that you're really taking this from a very, if you ask me, I always want to do better for healthcare, but you're taking this from a very, more of a global perspective, which I love, and acknowledging that there are different perspectives throughout our state that we all need to work together. So that's a fantastic perspective.
Well, thank you. And thanks everybody for coming. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Really so good to hear from you. I love learning from individuals who work in the healthcare industry and all industries, as opposed to just listening to sound bites and talking points. So I really hope everybody learned something today, and we can take away from this something to work on. Thanks so much. Have great holidays. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy spring. And we'll come back after the holidays are over and move forward. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.